make sure that you actually believe in the product or service that's trying to sponsor your show. If you don't, do not take their money. Do not partner with them because that's out of integrity. Your audience will eventually realize it and it will burn you in the end.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
And we're back with another episode of the podcast on podcasting, not a podcast on podcasting. And we're with the Cary Jack, not a Cary Jack. What's going on, Cary? How are you?
Oh, man, doing great. It's a beautiful day and I'm breathing. Thanks for having me, Adam.
Love it. So I'm in Cary's Mastermind. He runs the Happy Hustle Mastermind with a group of awesome podcasters, some of them making multi-million dollars with an ebook.
Yeah.
Insane. And others that host whole groups of podcasters where like one of them owns that whole company that is a collection and collaboration of a ton of podcasters. There's me who has the podcast on podcasting and a podcast on podcasting and a lot of other cool people. So if you want to join like a cool group, Cary's an awesome guy. You're going to learn a lot of cool stuff from him, but I'll definitely put that link in the show notes at the end. So I'm going to start here, Cary. I want you to give a little bit about your background, especially in sales, because I think it's going to be interesting to the listener. I want you to talk a little bit about your podcast as well, and then I'll jump into my first question.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate that. A little bit of background on me. I was born and raised in Sarasota, Florida, and grew up half in Red Lodge, Montana. So split time, half surf and skate, half camping, fishing, hunting, hiking, playing cowboy, great split nonetheless. And played sports my whole life, earned a college scholarship and degree for that matter. But before I got into, happy hustling, I was just hustling, doing some things probably for the wrong reasons and things that weren't necessarily legal. We won't get into all of that. But it came to a point where I was hustling so hard. I've always been an entrepreneur, but I was hustling so hard, man. I was wearing the suits and ties, living in New York City, just basically faking until I make it with my brother, business partner, and best friend with our tech startup. And we were soliciting this 7-figure VC funding deal. And we were working so hard, 100+ hour weeks, just grinding our face off. And I don't know if any of your listeners can relate, but, that's just a recipe for burnout. And that's exactly what happened. I burned myself out. We got the 7-figure VC funding deal. We were inked, with Microsoft and IBM and a bunch of awesome rockstar partners to grow this tech startup. But man, I couldn't take the money. I burned myself out. My brother, and I both decided to fold the company. And I moved to Bangkok, Thailand for about 10 months and found a better way to work and live. And that's where the Happy Hustle was born. So now I feel it's my calling to help other, entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs put the happy back in their hustle and avoid burnout and achieve balance. So that's kind of where it all started, man.
I love it. That's good stuff. And you do a lot of sales now, right?
Yep. I mean, I've been selling myself since I was young, selling random things along the way. I've also been,
and
in
you
the
said
entertainment
not all of them were legal. Is
Yeah,
that
that's true.
Okay,
Yeah, that's true.
we'll move right past it.
Yep.
No listener heard that. One thing that you bring to your mastermind, which you bring a lot. Number one, I love the attitude that you always have. You're always positive. And sometimes it's hard for a lot of us to always stay positive. You're really good at it. And I think it's because you live and breathe the happy hustle. I think for me, we just met, I think last Tuesday, and I was like, oh, I worked 21 hours one day, 16 hours another day, 17 hours a different day. And you're like, Adam, you got to change that. You got to be a happy hustler, not just a hustler. So I love that stuff. But what is one actionable takeaway for those of us who are in sales or who, in actuality, all things in life are sales?
Yeah.
So what are some takeaways that we need to be able to be better at connecting with other people or whatever it is? So I'll ask that question first.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sales are the lifeblood of any business. So you need to know how to sell your product or service, and you need to know how to sell your podcast, your message, your vision, whatever that is that you believe in. that you're spending your time and energy, you have to know how to communicate your idea. And with sales, the most important thing to remember is your job as a sales professional is to help them make a decision, be it a yes or a no. Indecision is thy enemy, right? So whether they make a decision, yes or no, it's still a win if you look at it from that lens, right? And when you come at sales with that selfless service mindset, thinking truthfully, is my product or service actually going to help this person? You will sell with integrity, you will sell with passion, and you will actually increase your revenue, in the process. So some of the biggest things with sales and just for a little context, like I'm not, a guru by any means. I don't claim to be a guru in anything, but I'll just tell you straight up. And this isn't like last year was a little different, but 2019, I probably sold over 500K on Zoom calls, working less than 20 hours a week. In just 2021, I've probably sold over 300K over Zoom calls in products and services for myself and for my affiliate partner. And it's the same process. You first figure out, your first thing you want to do is build the rapport, right? So whether you're talking to a podcast sponsor or you're talking to someone who's coming from your podcast to then upsell them to one of your programs, you need to build the rapport, right? Build that know, like, and trust. Then you figure out what is their problem? What is their pain, right? That's just essential. You got to figure out everyone has a problem or pain. That's why they're coming to you, right? To fix it. Then you need to figure out, really what is their dream or desire, right? Getting crystal clear on that dream and desire. So then, you can basically sell them what they need, but give them what they want, right? When you can get really clear. And in that process, when you figure out the dream, you need to build the belief, right? Build the belief, show it's possible for them too. Share case studies, share stories of others who have been successful with your product or service. You then need to create ethical scarcity and urgency. Key point there is ethical, right? Like don't say, I only take 3 coaching clients a month and then you got 5 in your program. You're like, well, that was not the case. There's 5 people in here. Cary, what's going on? You told me there's only 3. So you want to make sure there's ethical scarcity and urgency. Also, big point, you got to do the math. And I'm just giving you a crash course. I actually have a whole, multiple episodes. I just did 6 sales secrets. You guys can check that out on the Happy Hustle podcast, but I'm giving you a crash course here. You have to realize that people buy with emotion, but they justify with logic, right? They buy with emotion, but they justify with logic. So you got to do the math. What that means is, hey, Adam, why don't you join, the Happy Hustle Mastermind? It's $1,000 a month, but I can almost guarantee you're going to make 2K a month with partnerships, with sponsorships, and with connections. Here's how it works, blah, blah, blah. Here's how I can justify and show you the ROI, and that's really an important piece. And then you want to present the opportunity as an opportunity, and like with that ethical scarcity and urgency, it should already be pre-framed as such. However, it is always an opportunity, and you want to make them make the decision either yes or no. That's best for them. So that's a little crash course in sales for you.
Love it. One thing that I noticed that you do naturally that I've done for my meetup group, I had a meetup group a long time ago. And I guess I technically still have it, but I just can't meet with them. So it's not really happening. It was a Denver meetup. And I remember the big way that I was able to get the most amount of people to my group is I would personally outreach and call people. And I would always tell them what's in it for them. I can tell that you naturally do that. You let them know this is why you should do it. This is how it would work for you. And I used to call people, it didn't matter what, it was a real estate meetup, but I'd call a wholesaler and I would say, you got to come here because as a wholesaler, you need X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z is going to be there. And then I'll call a fix and flipper and I'll say, you need to be at this meetup because the wholesalers are going to be there.
Yeah,
and I would call the lenders and I'd be like, you need to be there because more real estate investors than ever are going to be there. So if you really want to lend money, you got to be there. Then I would call the real estate agent and I'd say, if you really want a good place to network and place to sell your deals, there's wholesalers, lenders. I mean, it's going to be a big thing. So, and with ethical urgency, one thing that I did, I'm only noticing it now because you brought that stuff out to me right now. And I'm like, oh, now that's why that worked. I didn't have the system like you do, but some of it I would do. But I would say, this is the only one that's going to be like that. Because every week we did a weekly meetup. Every week was a different topic. And so this week it's about this one thing and you need it because XYZ. And if you don't come, you're going to miss out. If you don't come, like, we're not going to do it again, you know? And so there was an ethical urgency, like it was the only one of its kind. And what ended up happening is some people had meetup groups that they said the title of it was monthly meetup. Come once a month and talk about real estate or something like this. But mine was different because if they are thinking about going to a monthly meetup, but something gets in the way, their kids are getting sick, oh, I can just go next month, is all they would say. But with mine, I sold it in a way like, if you miss out on this one, like it'll never happen again. And
Mhm.
so get your babysitter now, or else you're
Yep.
going to miss out. And they're like, they've got all that put together, and it's not just a monthly meetup, that it has no big deal. So,
Yep.
anyway, loved what you said. You had so much good sales. I think that's going to be a huge benefit to all of us since sales is the backbone of life. I want to ask you, since you run a mastermind and you sold me into it, if you will, why would somebody join a mastermind?
Well, I can just tell you straight up, joining a mastermind will expedite your success more than probably just about any other thing you could do. Like maybe hiring a mentor, sure. However, the collective mastermind effect that you get by being a part of a mastermind is unparalleled. And I've run 25 and 50K a year masterminds with high level CEOs, pro athletes, really powerful people. I've run free masterminds. Now the Happy Hustle podcasting mastermind is very affordable. And I do that for a reason because it's more for my benefit just as much as it is everyone else's because I wanted to connect with podcasters. I wanted to make it just a no brainer. Like, oh, if you can't spend, a couple $100 a month on your brand and your business to, connect with rock star, other like minded people, well, then you're obviously not very motivated to achieve your goals, in my opinion. So, having a mastermind, having that gamified accountability, we have gamified accountability in ours, Adam knows, where you actually put money in, where every single mastermind, you either get your money back or you lose it to the pot and it gets split by those who hit their goals.
I'm a net loss so far. I've made money a couple of times and I'm like, badass, I've got some money. And then I've fallen short as well. It's a lot of fun having that. And so you're saying one takeaway is you said you got to do something like that. You could do a mastermind where you have a collective genius in the room, or you could do one coach or a mentor where you pay that one person. And I will say that I like people. And so the collective is really good for me. One of
Mhm.
the reasons why I joined your group. And then the other thing that I'll say is if you pay just one person, then it's generally going to be more expensive because like that person still needs to pay for their time. And I mean, I hope you make money from your mastermind and I hope anybody who runs them, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that planning and everything, cultivating the right people. And so I hope that whoever is hosting it makes money. But I'll just say if you're hiring one person and they're giving you your time, but you're the only one on one, you'll have to still pay them for that whole hour or that year. When you do a collective, then there's a lot of people kind of paying in. And so it's like I like it better because I think I get more value because there's more people. And I notice that it's more affordable
Yep.
and usually to join like a group. So anyway, any other takeaways for why somebody would want to join a mastermind to grow?
Yeah. I mean, the three things anyone needs to create positive change in their life: expert mentorship, accountability, and a like minded community. With the mastermind, you get all three. Enough said.
Love it. All right. The next question that I want to go in is your Happy Hustle podcast. You've been hosting it for how long again?
I started it in November of last year.
Okay. So,
So 2 years. So
okay.
2019.
A year and a half.
2019.
It's
Year
been
and a half.
about a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. After a year and a half, what I want to get from you is the best thing about your podcast and the worst thing about your podcast. Like, what's the best? What's the worst?
Ooh, juicy. Well, I'd say the best thing about at least the Happy Hustle podcast is I get to connect, and this is probably a little cliche, generic answer, but I get to connect with absolute rock star happy hustlers like Adam Adams to come on my show, learn from
That is
them.
very cliche.
Yeah.
Everyone says that because they love me. I'm the best, you know?
Exactly, exactly.
Should I
But,
stop yet?
you should not, ever. No, but the truth is you get to connect with, like, people you would never get access to. When you have a platform, you get to connect with amazing people that really do, you know, educate and inspire not only your listeners, but you, and you're like constantly like in these master classes. I think that's such a great part. And it allows me to build the know, like, and trust with my tribe, my happy hustlers in a scalable way. I really think those are two huge components
Love
of
it.
any mastermind or any podcast, but especially the
Podcast,
happy
yeah.
hustle. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So connecting with people, building know, like, and trust with your tribe, and being able to have conversations with people. I love the same thing. I love being able to basically pick people's brains. I joke about it sometimes on this podcast. I'll bring somebody up who's an expert in a certain thing, and I'll just be like, I'm going to get free advice from you now, and you're not even going to know about it. I always joke about that because it's funny. We can bring people on our show and ask them any questions,
Yeah.
and it's like they're more likely to answer it, and we get free coaching. It
Yep.
could have been $1,000 an hour, just got a whole crash course for free. So awesome.
Yep.
Those are the best parts. What is the worst? Like the worst thing that's ever happened, or the hardest part of having a show? What's kind of the bottom thing that
Uh,
you want to point out?
yeah. Well, for me at least, I struggled initially with the consistency. Now I'm in flow, but for me, I was struggling with the consistency. I said, okay, Tuesday's my interview episode, Friday's my solo episode. And then there's like, you look back at my show, there's a couple Tuesdays missed or a Friday that turned into a Saturday, and it's like, damn, you got to keep your commitments to yourself. That was like the worst thing, like the feeling of letting myself down and my audience down really wasn't that big at the time. Getting bigger now, especially thanks to working with Adam and his awesome team at, Grow Your Show, which I highly recommend everyone out there. If you haven't, checked out his awesome services, shameless plug here, but it really does. It did help blow up my show.
I'll pay you later, brother.
Thank you. Just use code HAPPY for your affiliate. Yeah. Anyway, but the point is that is definitely, something that kind of was a pain in the butt, like letting myself down. Maybe the worst thing was just the lack of consistency and having to be consistent, late nights, audio rendered and edited and video promos and all the things to make sure you're out on a consistent schedule.
Okay, so there's a few things. The biggest one is the consistency and kind of feeling like being behind the eight ball, and the stress that comes with that. And I also heard in the beginning, it was like the audience wasn't as big as you wanted it to be, and you were still doing it, but in a way, like, and I know other podcasters feel this way too. In a way, it's like, what am I doing this for? For crickets? What am I doing this for? Who knows?
Love it.
I want to dissect two things on there. What did you do to solve the problem of, or if anything, what did you do to solve the problem of having to be the one editing it last minute? And what did you do to solve the problem of getting in front of more listeners?
Well, I never have edited my show once personally. So I'll make that clear. I've hired a team and I dialed in my systems more in order to make the consistency and the release, more efficient and effective on Tuesdays and Fridays. So my team is pretty much dialed in now to make sure I hit my deadlines. That's the first thing. And then second thing, in order to grow my show, definitely, doing interview exchanges with others. I'm sure you hear that a lot, but that really does help. And then, working with someone who knows what the heck they're doing, another shameless plug, but it's true. Adam's helped grow my show exponentially, so if you really want to take this thing seriously and you want to make some money from it, like it took me 55 episodes to monetize my show. Really did. It was a labor of love. But now, I just dropped episode 121, pulls in, 3 to 5 Gs now a month in like sponsorship and ad revenue on autopilot, pretty much like I do my ad reads and whatnot. That's not crazy money. I know there's a lot of people out there making a lot more, but given all the other things I'm doing, it works. Plus all the traffic that gets driven to my offers, it just makes sense. And I have a couple more sponsorships, and we're going to get into it, I think, too, regarding sponsorship, but I have a couple more who want to join, and sponsor the show. I really want to focus on, the listener experience, not like overload it. Like, no offense to
Yeah.
Rogan, but come on, man. That's like 9 ads in one like show is a little much.
It is. It is. It's funny that he has so many people listening when like the first 5 minutes is just a bunch of ads, but that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, I would love to be a sponsor of your show. I'd be more than open to it because your audience is an entrepreneur. And I know most entrepreneurs need to create podcasts. And so,
Yeah.
I'm begging for it. Now you're using the scarcity on me. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I got to box these guys out
Hey, hey, hey.
before they take my spot. But
Yeah. You
yeah,
let me know.
going back to sales. Yeah, I'd love to. So let's jump in here. Biggest lesson learned. And what I want to ask about this is specifically, if you can go there, something you never expected to be involved in podcasting, something that threw you for a loop, that surprised you, that maybe you don't want the new podcaster to be surprised with the same thing. Hey, my friend, as you know, this episode is sponsored by my company, growyourshow.com. We want you to be able to have the best tools at your disposal without costing you a whole arm and a leg. So right now you can get a free list of vetted equipment that like mics, mixers, webcams, sound treatment, editing software, everything that you need. I created the whole PDF with direct purchase links just to save you time and money, to help it be more convenient for you. So this free PDF will help you skip all the guesswork. If it's on there, it's vetted and approved by yours truly. And if it's not on there, it's probably not worth the money. So go ahead and get yours at growyourshow.com/PDF. Let's get back into the show.
I think you have to first and foremost understand why you're doing it, right? And realize, number two, that it is a marathon, not a sprint. Like, you got to play the long game. Like, I committed to 200 episodes before I pressed record on my first one. I said, Cary Jack is going to complete 200 episodes on the Happy Hustle podcast, bar none. Like, that's happening. And then I'm going to reassess and see if I want to continue, And I'm already 121 episodes in, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to do far more than 200 because I already see the momentum. However, I just want all the new podcasters out there to be aware it is a marathon, not a sprint. Play the long game, build the relationships. You're going to hear no a ton. Like, people are going to say, no, your show's not right for me. Or, hey, this isn't a good fit right now. Or, hey, maybe later. Or, definitely no. Stop sending me emails. Like, and trust me, I am so used to rejection. I've worked as a professional actor/model, now part-time. But back in my prime, I was, repped by the biggest talent agency in the world, Wilhelmina and Next Models. And I got no on a regular basis every single day for about 14 years. I was in the game. Do you know how hard it is to pick yourself up after you get no like 5 times a day of 5 different castings by 5 different people? It's like, I'm used to it. I just use it as fuel. I'm like, all right, it's a no for now, but it's a maybe later. Like, that's how I look at it. No. Anyway, you're going to hear no in the podcasting game too. So just play the long game.
I did door-to-door sales. Have I ever told you that?
No, but
Oh my
I can
gosh.
see it.
Sick. I don't remember if it was like, so 2 years as a missionary selling religion.
Nice.
And then 4 more summers selling alarms, systems, and mortgages. Fun fact, I was the top salesperson in selling mortgages in 2008. I sold 2 and nobody else sold any.
Yeah. Well, how many religions did you sell? That's the real question.
I guess 1 religion.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I could mark on many days having 100 no's and 0 yeses door-to-door selling. Literally talked to 100 people, got 100 no's in 8 hours.
Builds character.
with a 2-hour lunch break because it was Chicago and Las Vegas and it was just too hot. So I needed water.
Yep.
Anyway, let's jump into this because you started talking about, I love the 2 takeaways that you gave us for the biggest lessons learned, that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I want to jump into the top guests because you started to mention that you're getting no from some guests, and it's fine. You're used to it because of your sales background, your modeling background, and everything. You used to get 5 no's a day. So it just goes right past you. But I want to talk a little bit about, you've had why don't you name like 4 guests that others would probably recognize? Like John Lee Dumas, I know for sure that
Yeah.
they would recognize because if they're listening to this podcast, they probably listen to his podcast or have at least heard of him. But you've had some recognizable names if you want to mention any, but how do you get them? Like, how do you get these top people is the big question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a common question, especially when you're podcasting. You're like, oh, I must get the biggest, baddest guests with the biggest platform to cross promote for me. And I think you have to realize, you know, initially it's going to be difficult to get those guests, but stay at it. With John Lee Dumas, I built the relationship over time, adding value wherever I could, basically had my finger on the pulse. So what I do is I have a Dream 100. And I recommend all the podcasters out there, if you're familiar with Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels, Russell's a friend of mine. He was a former client. He's going to come on the podcast soon. He has this Dream 100, right? This is basically you writing out your 100 top guests, top influencers, will you, or entrepreneurs or business women or men that you want to interview who have access to your perfect target avatar, right? That's important. It's not just, oh, I want to interview The Rock. Like, The Rock's got little 16-year-old girls that's following him nonstop. Are those your perfect avatar? Maybe not, you know? So your Dream 100 should consist of people who have access to your perfect avatar, right? So map that out. Then unfollow everyone else on your social media. Like, use social media as a business. Then when you can log into your Instagram, when you got to post or you got to do your Facebook, you see what the heck your Dream 100's up to. I saw that JLD had a book launch coming out because my finger was on the pulse because I follow them. So I said, hey, JLD, I got 5 ways that I can help you promote and sell this book. Here's how. I can have you on my show. I can sell my everyone course book that we sell through, and they send me a screenshot. I'll give them my course for free. I'll do a coaching call with them. We could have you on for this. We could do this. Like, I give them 5 unique ways to add value. That's how you get big guests on. You add value first, you keep your finger on the pulse, and you reach out when the timing is right.
Holy moly, that is so good. All right, so how you get big guests, it's that you make a Dream 100 from Russell Brunson. And I always mix up Russell Brunson and Richard Branson. I don't know why, but
Tomato, tomato.
It's the RB. I'm dyslexic. We'll just call it that.
Me too.
So Russell Brunson with the potato guns that he created and everything else that he's done, and ClickFunnels, which if you're an entrepreneur, you probably have heard of ClickFunnels or been to the event as well in Tennessee or wherever they have them. I think last year, 2 years ago, it was there. But so get your Dream 100. I love the quote. I wrote it down. Who have access to your perfect avatar. I love how you distinguished The Rock from Russell Brunson, because The Rock is famous, but he doesn't necessarily have your avatar following him. But Russell Brunson does because he has entrepreneurs. You've got the happy hustle. So that makes a lot of sense. So you build your Dream 100 of people like that who have your perfect avatar, follows them already. And then you start figuring out and following them. I loved how you said unfollow everybody else. And then when they keep your finger on the pulse, when something's coming out, you reach out to them. And then the last takeaway that I got, which was really good, is to be able to show them, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 ways that you can add value. Hey, you've got your book coming out. This is how I can help you. And you give them a list of ways that you can do that, including, which I thought was really generous. And so I need to have a book come out soon. You said you'd gift your coaching or something like that. I'll gift this if they buy it and send a screenshot. That's freaking awesome. I love it. So anyway, if you want top guests, that was the best thing that you could take away from this episode. Now, you've also mentioned just a moment ago, a few minutes ago, you were talking about how you had 3,000 to 5,000 on your podcast coming in as sponsor revenue. And I thought that was amazing because, frankly, as we speak right now, I'm serving 20 some odd podcasters, and I know which ones make money and which ones don't. And if they make money at all, it's not usually 3,000 to 5,000. And so, yeah, maybe JLD's making more, but
He definitely is.
yeah,
He
he
posts his
definitely.
income reports on his website. Yeah, he's pulling in over six figures a month in sponsorships.
That's amazing. And thinking about, like, how did you get those sponsors? How did you find the sponsors? How did you outreach to the sponsors with your sales skills, with offering value first? 3 to 5K, while you might see others doing better, Cary, I think most of us, including myself, I don't bring that much in for sponsor revenue on the show. I like to sponsor my own show,
Yeah.
and I'd like to think that I make that amount, but it's only because I sponsor my own show, but it's not other people's products. And
Mhm.
how do you do it? How do you find them? How do you talk to them? Teach us your ways, Jedi.
Yeah, first things first, create a media kit, right?
Okay.
You need to get clear on what the heck you're actually offering to these brands, to these sponsors, to these individuals. So for me, I created 3 tiers, right? A high ticket, a medium ticket, and a low ticket. And with that, each of them should build upon one another, right? So for the low ticket, maybe you get one ad read, one social media post, and you get that every other episode, right? The medium ticket, maybe you do an ad read every episode, 2 social media posts, and an email drop, right? 3, the high ticket, maybe you get, an ad read on the interview and the solo episode, 4 social media posts a month. Because I tie in my whole brand to sponsorships because it's all connected. 1 email drop, and you get your founder on the show, right? And so you can show that. Now, I will say this, all of my sponsorship deals are hybrid deals. So not only do I make a percentage, I'm incentivized to sell more because I get 30% or whatever it is, 20% of every sale that buys through my link. So I create hybrid deals in all my media kit offers. So those are some important distinctions when you are selling. You want to get crystal clear on your media kit. And then you got to build the value with whatever brand that brand equity. So you can, so they trust you, you trust them, create very clear deliverables, have a contract agreement, right? Set up like a monthly check in with your sponsors, see what ad reads are working. I always ask for, hey, who's your top converting affiliate or influencer or sponsor, sponsored individual? What are the best pieces of content that you've seen most effective? Oh, okay, send those over. I'll recreate my own version, right? You don't have to recreate the wheel. So I always get those type of content. And some of my partners, I actually now am recreating a whole funnel, like to even drive traffic more effectively. Because I said, hey, you know what? Your funnel needs help. We're getting people to the page, but it's not converting because your copy and your landing pages is off. And I have, pretty decent experience in digital marketing and funnel building. So I kind of consult them on that component to then increase sales for everyone. So these are some components when you are doing a sponsorship deal. Those are some of the things that's helped me.
Huge. Honestly, that was so good. All right. So create a media kit, have 3 tiers, high, medium, low, and let them build upon each other. I also liked that, the lowest tier, you got a couple things. The middle tier, you got lots of things. And the top tier, you got everythings. And one quote that I got is all of my sponsor deals are hybrid deals. All of my sponsor deals are hybrid deals. And I like that because that is such a creative way to be able to really get in front, to really be able to, what's the best way to say it? To make more money. For example, one way is that they pay you for being on the show and they pay you for having their ads on the show, and you can only charge a certain amount for that. Another way is you can just do affiliate, but then you lose if nothing works. But the hybrid deals or the Goldilocks seems to be really beneficial. It's that piece of porridge that I think everybody loves, where number one, they pay a small amount that makes sense up front. We'll call it small. Who knows what the number is? It doesn't matter. But they
Mhm.
pay a certain amount that takes care of everything. But plus, they get more money if it delivers more. And so it just seems like a huge win win for you and for the sponsor as well. And so a huge takeaway. Again, you're dropping gold, Cary Jack. I will say he does this in his mastermind all the time. So we'll probably put a link to the mastermind. It won't
Yeah.
be an affiliate link or anything like that. I just
Oh, we'll
really
get you
respect this
credit.
guy.
Don't you worry.
Uh, one thing that I'll say is a couple more things that I noticed. Clear deliverables. I think that's huge. When you create your media kit, if that clarity, a confused mind says no. And so with the clear deliverables, I know that's really going to help make somebody be able to make that decision. And I fall short of that. I'm just being completely honest. I fall short of that in all of my businesses. I have it all in my head, but I don't write it down and make it clear. And
Mhm.
a lot of people are confused. They might say, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. And I'm like, but it's so good.
Yeah,
It needs to
yeah.
be written down. And that was huge. The fifth thing that I loved about this is you called them your partners, not just my sponsors. These are your partners. You're partnering, you have the same avatar, you have aligned interest, and the way that you talk about them, even, you know, when I wasn't pointing this out, is it's all about the partnership,
Yeah.
and it's not a hands off, hand distance. I don't know much about this person. You've got your aligned interest in so many ways. It's
Mhm.
your listener, and it's also that if they do well, you do well. If you
Yeah.
do well, they do well. So good stuff. How do you serve your avatar better? Speaking of avatar, we've mentioned the word avatar a few times when it comes to alignment of interest with your sponsors, but you also brought it up talking about the Dream 100 as well,
Mhm.
bringing people on. So, who's your avatar and how exactly are you serving your avatar on each and every episode?
Yeah, let me throw in one more caveat with the sponsorship game. Make sure that you actually believe in the product or service that's trying to sponsor your show. If you don't, do not take their money. Do not partner with them because that's out of integrity. Your audience will eventually realize it and it will burn you in the end. So, just important note. And then in terms of your perfect target avatar, like for me, I know that I serve purpose driven entrepreneurs, right? Mainly in the online space. I go so deep as to name them. Like Ali and Sean are my personal, avatars for the happy hustle. I know everything about them, right? I know their demographics, what age they are, their profession, their location, their marital status, right? Those are good. A lot of people get the demographics piece. Now, here's the important part, the psychographics, right? Like, what are their interests? What are their hobbies? What are their morals, their political beliefs? What books are they reading right now? What movies are they watching? What podcasts do they listen to outside of yours, right? Like this, when you can get that type of specificity, instead of just pushing content out there like a lot of people do, hey, check out my stuff over here, and just be a part of the noise, which let's all agree, it's very noisy out there and you have less than 8 seconds to capture attention and you need more than 10 impressions for them to actually buy your product or service. So instead of playing the noise game and just pushing content out, when you get crystal clear on your target avatar, instead of pushing content, you pull in your ideal client avatar with an opportunity, right? With your true authentic self. So it's the push versus pull. That's the clarity that you need. And I always result back to these three questions. And I know Adam knows them because we talk about them. And this is from, one of my really great affiliate partners, Brand Builders Group, in their curriculum. What problem do you solve? Right? What problem do you solve in one word? For me, it's imbalance. I know that I was out of balance. When I got imbalance, my life changed, my happiness skyrocketed. So I solved the problem of imbalance. Two, second question, who do you solve that problem for? Right? Who is it? I know I don't want to serve, like corporate executives. Like, I'm not a corporate executive. I got a mustache on and a plaid shirt, and I'm going fly fishing right after this. Like, that's my people. That's why Adam's my people. He gets out there, he goes, mountain biking, jeeping off road, right? All the things.
Well,
So I,
hold up. I thought Wednesdays you had to go snowboarding, and now you're taking a
it's melting.
Wednesday and
It's
going.
It's 50
Okay,
out
okay,
here, man. It's fishing
okay,
time.
okay.
Yeah, I don't even know how this got on my calendar on a Wednesday, truthfully. I was like, damn, I got to talk to Adam. Not that I don't love you, but I did notice that. Anyway, because part of me happy hustling is taking off my Wednesdays. So,
Yeah.
point being, you got to get to know your avatar. That was number two. Who do you solve that problem for? Right. And then number three, what is your uniqueness and how do you exploit your uniqueness in the service of others, right? So that is the important 3 questions you got to ask. And then when you get clear on that, it's game on, baby.
This is such a good interview, brother. I love this. So Allie and Sean, did I get the names right
Yeah.
of your avatars? So how did you name Allie and Sean? Did you have an Allie and have a Sean and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to make them, or you randomly named people? You're like, oh,
No,
I'll just
no.
call her Allie.
No, I really serve those people.
Okay. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. And then I really enjoyed you going into demographics and all of the different parts of that. And then taking a step further and going to the psychographics, where they are, where they hang out, what podcasts they listen to, what they're thinking about, what they're worried about, all of that stuff. I really feel like when we're starting a podcast, for example, when we have our podcast, we need to do that same thing. We need to figure out who our Allie and Sean are. And for me, anyway, I love it. Love it. Love it. Push versus pull. Another big takeaway, push versus pull. Actually, pull versus push, how I'll switch it around, because really everybody else is pushy, 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 and it just doesn't work. You got to find a way to attract them, magnetize them. And so I love that. And then the 3 questions that you want to ask when you're launching your podcast and when you're trying to make sure you're differentiating yourself and pulling in your avatar with that magnetism. Number 1, what problem do you solve? Number 2, who do you solve it for? And number 3, what is your uniqueness? How you do it differently? Huge. We can wrap this up. This is epic. Here's the thing. How do people find your mastermind? Like if they're interested in joining you and me, how do they find it? And then I'll say Happy Hustle is the podcast. Go and find that wherever you're listening to this podcast. That's easy enough. But how do they find the mastermind? And then what's the last thing you want to share with them?
Yeah, so you can find the mastermind, like you could apply to join at thehappyhustlemastermind.com. Pretty simple there, thehappyhustlemastermind.com. If you want to learn more about me, pretty much everything, is all on one site. It's caryjack.com, caryjack.com. There you can actually get the hookup and get my free ebook, and it's not like just fluff. This is some of my best work distilled for free for you, going through the 10 alignments of being a happy hustler, which we didn't get into, but it's basically my proprietary framework on actually creating a life of blissful balance, and living a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. So you can get that for free. Just plug in your email, then actually read it. Don't just get it, actually read it. Check out the Happy Hustle podcast. Check out the episode I did with Adam Adams. He crushed it. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on there. There's the journey, 10 days to become a happy hustler, like online course, a mastermind. I host a Montana retreat for rockstar entrepreneurs.
How do I get to be part of that? How do I?
You got to apply, Adam. Okay. We got to see if you fit the criteria.
All right, I need to go. I've never been to Montana, which is insane.
Get up here, man.
All I've heard of how beautiful it is. Can you see what are those? The northern lights there? You can, right? It's northern enough.
And just so everyone knows, there's a ton of grizzly bears that eat a lot of people. It's freezing. You really don't want to come to Montana. I'm trying to tell people that it's getting a little busy here.
So I'll bring my mountain bike. Mountain bike. When do you usually do that?
Labor Day.
Okay.
Yeah, September. Yeah. So we'll talk about it, man. It'll be fun. But anyway, those are some of the places. And then, final closing thoughts would just be, guys, truthfully, you can put the happy back in your hustle. I know it sounds like a facade or, BS cliche, jargon here, but I'm telling you, if right now you're not actually happy, you're not fulfilled, you're stressed or anxious or overwhelmed with your podcast or with your life or with your business, make a pivot, make a change, put the happy back in your hustle, learn from people like Adam, who are doing it, like who are actually making a positive impact, but also living with passion, which is that inward facing drive, and then purpose, which is that outward serving motivation, right? So infuse more passion, purpose, and positive impact in your life. And I just invite each and every one of you to connect with me in the Happy Hustle any way that you see so fit. But this has been my honor, Adam. So thank you.
Really, really good to have you. All those links that we talked about are in the show notes right now. So you can just scroll down and click anywhere that you'd like. His podcast is there, the Happy Hustle Mastermind. You said so many P's earlier. I want to say a P, and even though it doesn't exist in some places, or caryjack.com. It's all in the show notes. And thank you, brother. Fantastic to have you.
Yeah, peace and love, y'all.
Talk to you soon. Bye. I really don't say this nearly enough. I don't mention this, and I feel horrible because it's a great resource for you to be able to take your podcast to the next level. And it's simply a free resource that I don't need your email or anything. It's just a podcasting course that I created that is ended up putting in the very first 6 episodes of this podcast. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely going to want to just check out those first 6 episodes, see how they can help you improve your podcast, get in front of more people, and have a better result where you're making more money through the podcast, etc. So much can happen after you listen through episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you haven't done it, go do it now. And by the way, if you're subscribed, you'll keep hearing more great content. So to those of you who are, I'll see you on the next episode.